In this video, I am going to reveal some of the top lead generation strategies you have to be implementing into your sales if you want to generate more leads, get more prospects, and close more deals. Now, before we go ahead and get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And by the way, I want to give a huge shout out to AppSumo for helping make this video possible. And if you didn't know, AppSumo is a platform where over 1 million entrepreneurs trust it for everything they need to create a fulfilling business. On AppSumo, you can discover, buy, sell products you need to level up your skills and build the lifestyle you are passionate about. So if you want to check out AppSumo, make sure to check the link in the description to learn more. So diving right into some lead generation strategies, the first thing we're going to be talking about is defining who you want to work with. Now, the problem most people have, especially in B2B sales, lead generation, business development, is that they're not crystal clear on the type of people they want to spend time with, want to talk to, and who will actually be a good fit to buy their product and service. A lot of times people are just blasting emails, hundreds of emails every day, buying these random lists from random places, hoping, crossing their fingers that somebody says, yes, I want to buy your product and service. But for the most part, people who are doing this spray and pray approach, they don't really get much results. And the reason is because they're not tailoring their message, whether it's a cold call, a cold email, LinkedIn message, or even if it's like using Twitter or whatever the case is, they're not tailoring their message to solve the customer's problem. So the first thing you actually have to do is you want to define who you want to work with, right? And this is very different from who you can work with, because you can technically work with anybody, but you want to work with the people who give you less headache, easy to work with, pay you on time, pay high prices, don't negotiate too much. You want to go for the people who are solid customers, right? Not the annoying people who are always asking for discounts and always trying to shortchange you, but the people that for you are an ideal customer. So let's say, for example, right, one of the fastest growing industries right now is actually Web3, crypto, NFTs. You might be watching this thinking, oh, I thought crypto was dead. Well, it's not really dead. A lot of people are still going really hard at it. And so if you're offering any kind of product or service within this field, you have to know who you want to actually talk to, right? For example, there are a lot of public companies and billion-dollar companies who are actually moving into cryptocurrencies, right? And this whole thing called Web3. You're gonna have companies like Amazon, MasterCard, Sony, Marvel, you name it. Every major IP is getting into crypto. With that said, crypto's not dead. It's just that kind of lost interest for certain brands who got burned by it and they don't want to do it anymore. But on the other side, there's gonna be all these billion-dollar companies that are investing heavily into cryptocurrency. So if you're offering any type of product or service that helps them achieve their goal in whatever it is they want to do, they have a budget for you. So if you're crafting an ideal customer profile, and let's say you're doing Web3 marketing, right? You want to target people who have a budget, who have money to spend on marketers, who cannot do it by themselves and are willing to work with experts in the field, aka you. Then when you reach out to them, the likelihood of them actually responding, assuming you're good at what you do, is very high, because they already have that need. They want to work with you and they're easy to work with for you. So you're gonna get paid much easier. It's easier to reach out to them. You don't have to do the spray and pray approach. You can carefully, strategically go on Excel or whatever the case is, make a list of people that you want to reach out to, and then actually do it, right? And most people actually skip this part because they're too lazy to do it, or maybe they just don't understand the concept of an ideal customer profile. But really sit down to understand who you want to work with, what their pains are, how do you solve their pains uniquely better than everybody else on the market, and then from there you're going to use that ingredients, right, to craft your messages so that your chances of converting them into a customer is significantly higher. Now, the next tip I have for you is you want to use a calendar tool, and this actually segues into our sponsor really nicely, which is AppSumo. And one of the tools that you can actually purchase on AppSumo is this tool that I found called TidyCal. So when it comes to, let's say, cold emailing, using LinkedIn, communicating with people on Twitter, when you reach out to somebody, if you have an ideal customer profile, you actually offer some kind of value, chances are they're going to respond positively, right? From there, typically, if you do any type of B2B sales, you have to get them on the phone or Zoom call, something like that. The challenge that we had in the past was that I would have to say, hey, is this time good for you? And they'll be like, oh, no, that's not good. What about this time? And then if I'm, in Asia and I'm talking to somebody in America, the time zones are completely off, and it's really a mess to go back and forth, and it wastes a lot of time to find a good fit on our calendar on both sides. You definitely want to use some kind of software that makes it a lot easier, and TidyCal is actually a pretty interesting one, right? So TidyCal is really interesting because once you're on TidyCal, essentially what you can do is create these different calendars from 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whichever you prefer, right? And so all you really have to do is, let's say you're talking to somebody on Twitter or cold email, you say, hey, if it makes sense to talk, feel free to book a time on my calendar. And so once they click that link, they're going to go onto your page where they're going to be able to select a time. So if they're like, okay, August 9th sounds good at 3 p.m. All they have to do is put in their name, their email address, and they book it, and it automatically goes on their calendar, right? So no back and forth, no this and that. It's just so easy to do. You can have different calendars for different things, right? For me, for example, I like to have different calendars for my friends. There will be more times open for, sales calls, which will have a different set of times, which is more work hours, right? And there are some rare cases where I'm willing to do a call late at night, because if I want to talk to somebody on the other side of the world, I got to do that, but I just got to limit the days that do it, right? So maybe I only want to do it on Wednesday, not every single day of the week. So that's why it's good to have different type of calendars for that. And the interesting thing about using this link, right? So you can copy this URL, put it anywhere. You can put it in your email signature, your LinkedIn profile, your Twitter profile, to make it easy for people to book a time on your calendar. And also, if you do any type of consulting work, or let's say you want to only work with people who are serious, or maybe you're looking for upfront payment first, someone is going to pay you like $500 for consulting, you can actually have a feature where you can actually ask people to pay with credit card and PayPal to make sure they pay upfront for your services and time, right? You don't have to chase them after for that. So, those are some of the use cases I found for TidyCow. And if you want to check that out, all you have to do is check the link in the description. Right now, there's a lifetime deal going on where you can actually get TidyCow for $29 lifetime. It's going to give you like all these features that they have on the page. So if you want to check that out, check the link in the description. So now moving into the next tip I have for you, and we're talking about like your social media a little bit. If you want to have a larger flow of lead generation, you got to build up your social media presence, right? Doesn't matter if it's going to be Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. It really just depends on what product and service you're selling and who your audience is. For example, for me in the Web3 space, right? I do a lot of marketing in this space, and Twitter and YouTube is going to be my bread and butter, right? I make YouTube videos talking about what's going on in the market, and then I get people on my Twitter where I just share some of my personal thoughts. What ends up happening is that you get a lot of fans, a lot of people, a lot of businesses that watch the YouTube channel, they follow me on Twitter, and then they'll find that, hey, maybe I should ask Patrick for some advice, and they will automatically DM me. So it's not me having to reach out to them, it's them consuming my content, whether it's on YouTube and Twitter, and then the lead generation starts happening. They start flowing to me. From there, I can have a conversation with them, and then if I see that maybe we might be able to work together, I'll send them a link to my calendar. They'll click it, we'll book a time, and then we'll see if it's a good fit to work together. So for a social media presence, you have to really understand like what are your skill sets when it comes to creating content. For me, I'm really good at video, obviously, because you're watching this, and so I lean on my strengths, right? When I first got started on Twitter, I remember I started at 0 followers like everybody else. It wasn't really that difficult for me to understand Twitter because I do sales videos and I know copywriting, so I got into that pretty quickly, built somewhat of a following with tens of thousands of followers on Twitter now. But yeah, just for me personally, I definitely have built a lot of my network in the Web3 space just purely from social media. It's not too often I reach out to somebody. I do reach out to people, but not super often. 9 out of 10 people reach out to me, and then we end up becoming friends, end up traveling the world together, things of that nature. So building up a social media presence actually does matter, especially if you're just starting out, because this is where you actually break your foot in the door, where you make friends, you get new information, you get ideas on how to grow your business or do better at your job or whatever the case is. The really good part is that even if you decided to do something else in the future, let's say you're doing business development at one company, well, when it's time for you to leave that company, or maybe just things didn't work out, or you want to do something different, you still have your following. So the people that follow you are potentially people that can hire you as well. Or if you're an agency owner or you do any kind of freelancing, your followers, right, depending on the content you put out, can literally be your customers. And eventually, you see them liking your stuff, you see them commenting, you see who's following you, and then you can reach out to them, book time on your calendar, and then try to close them, right? And so social media is definitely underrated. It's hard to do, especially like there's not a lot of B2B sales rep in the tech space who have a social media presence because they don't think they need it. But I can tell you, like, the risk to reward, or like if you do have a following, it makes a significant difference. People literally treat you differently in your little industry just because you got a couple thousand followers. So highly recommend you do it because the benefits outweigh not doing it at all. So the next tip I have for you for lead generation is this. You got to double down on what's working, right? So whether it's social media, cold emailing, cold calling, whatever the case is, if it is working, you want to do more of it. A lot of people make the mistake of like, hey, I'm doing cold email and it's kind of working, so let me just add cold calling and LinkedIn and Twitter all at the same time. The more channels you have, there's that omni where you're kind of everywhere, but at the same time, you're dividing your efforts. So if you are one sales rep and you're not hiring people under you, every hour you spend doing cold emailing is an hour you take away from cold calling, right? But if you find that, cold emailing is getting you 80% of your meetings, you might as well just double the amount of meetings you have by sending double the amount of cold emails. Don't think that you need to diversify so quickly, just go really ham on a thing that's really working and just run it up. So let's say for me, if YouTube and Twitter is working really well, there's not a big need for me to, let's say, jump on TikTok and jump on Instagram if those two channels are really blowing up for me, right? But if I find that, hey, they're really working and I can hire people to manage the other accounts, then great. It doesn't take my personal time to actually do that, right? However, if I'm not hiring people and I'm doing everything myself, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are, it's like you just can't do everything. Focus on the thing that actually generates you revenue. So if it's just Twitter and tweeting, leads are being generated from that, just keep tweeting and then get on more calls and then sell them on your product and service and then do it again and again and again and again and start building that book of business, right? So double down on what's working. Don't get distracted by the next shiny object, especially for like fundamental like B2B sales, which is really just like cold emailing, LinkedIn, and cold calling, right? Usually for most salespeople watching this, those are your bread and butter, especially if you work at a company. Yeah, you don't need a huge social media presence to do that, right? But still, if that's working for you, just double down on it and just double your leads. And so with that said, that is everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if you want to check out TidyCow and other AppSumo tools, make sure to check the link in the description for a special discount. With that said, my name is Patrick Dang, and I will see you in the next one.